believe so. Welcome everybody to the latest episode of Bitcoin Cash Coffeehouse, where we discuss anything and everything related to Bitcoin Cash in a casual setting. And hopefully y'all bring your coffee and we can have a nice discussion. So we'll just go through the grid view here first and just have everybody introduce themselves and the wallet they represent. And let's do the wallet you represent and what's a unique feature about your wallet. So I'll start at the top here with Tom Z.
Hi, I'm Tom Z. I've been working on Flowy for a long time, and now there's a new little project that I'm starting with the same libraries, so it's kind of new but not new, called Flowy Pay, and that's a wallet. And it's meant to be done in a way that you can just put a new skin on top of it, so it's for a desktop or a wallet on a phone or something like that. So it's quite easy to just have a different branding, or lots of different ideas that I haven't figured out yet. Yeah, and that's basically my introduction. Thanks.
Cool. Quest, Josh.
Yeah, so I'm Josh Ellithorpe. I work on the BCH project and do a lot of testing and work with Chris on Neutrino. Chris is the lead dev, but I do probably most of the testing and really like the infrastructure behind it. But I also work on the APIs in BCH to leverage features for other wallet developers, and I'm very vocal about stuff in the wallet space.
Awesome. James?
Hey guys, James Cramer here. I help maintain the Electron Cash SLP edition wallet. This is basically a Swiss Army knife for creating and managing SLP tokens. The SLP edition is a fork of the Electron Cash project, but we still receive heavy support from that team, namely Kalen Kulianu and Jonald Fyookball. The wallet basically allows you to create and manage your SLP token supply by minting or burning operations. And then the wallet also does local validation, so you don't have to trust any servers or third-party information for your SLP token validation.
Awesome. Romit?
Hi everyone. Probably the most newest wallet here. It's called Zapit, Z-A-P-I-T. Yeah, it's a Bitcoin Cash wallet with non-custodial peer-to-peer services built into the wallet. So the services are non-custodial because we leverage the check data sig verify to have non-custodial escrow. So that's how we basically have users top up and withdraw. We also have peer-to-peer remittance or international transfers built into the wallet, but it's built in a way where the experience itself it feels like it's centralized, even though it's completely non-custodial.
Cool. Matias?
Hello, everyone. So I'm Matias Garcia. I'm software director at BitPay. I run the wallet team, and we also maintain the open source libraries and the blockchain indexer and the blockchain explorer. I've been with BitPay for 6 years or so. So our wallet is multi-signature, it's multi-currency and multi-platform, and it's highly oriented to spend cryptocurrency. So we put a lot of efforts, or the task of spending your cryptocurrency is easy and smooth. That's all.
Awesome. Go ahead, Paul.
Hey, so I'm Paul from Edge, and what really kind of separates Edge out from the rest of the pack is functionality to both buy, sell, and trade in a non-custodial fashion, kind of heavily built into the application. Integrate with over 15 different exchanges to allow people to find the best price across crypto to crypto, as well as being able to onboard from fiat, offboard into fiat, off-ramp into fiat. And probably the one also unique thing, kind of two unique things, the second being our key management style, meaning that we want to take the complexity of key management and having to write down 12 or 24 words to back up each of your wallets and wrap that with encryption and automatic backup, through just normal login credentials. So kind of give that centralized feel, but still full control to the end user so that they still control their funds and we can't see balances, transactions, and obviously private keys.
Awesome. And Pokkst, or it's Pokkst, I always forget.
It's Pokkst, yeah. I'm Pokkst. I work on Crescent. Crescent is the first wallet to fully support or fully adopt cash accounts. So like the naming system, alias system for addresses, for both registration and sending. It was also the first mobile wallet to support SLP tokens. And it's also the first to like a few other features like Cointext SMS API and SLP BIP70. So yeah.
Nice. So yeah, a bunch of diverse wallets, to say the least. So the next question, we'll go a little bit backwards here through our people, but so if you could just explain like who's using your wallet. Is it normal normies? Is it advanced users, power users? Who's using it, and who do you want to be using this wallet? Like who is this wallet directed to? So we'll start again with Pokkst.
So the primary goal of Crescent was to aim the wallet towards like new users of cryptocurrency. So that's why I implemented cash accounts for like receiving and sending, and then just make the UI like super clean and like not too advanced, similar to like other accounts like Electron Cash, because Electron Cash is like a power user wallet. But I also have power users using the wallet because I kind of tucked away some advanced features in the settings screen for those users that like want to take advantage of those features. So like signing messages, verifying messages, and like UTXO selection. So those kind of things.
Cool. Paul?
We are targeting, I think everyone's going to say you're targeting someone that's a little bit more beginner, because obviously that's a huge part of the population, 99% of the population versus like 1%. But what aspect of a beginner I think is a thing to clarify. And so for us, we're trying to target the person that hasn't, or isn't looking to deal with, once again, the complexity of private keys. That's the core piece that's a little bit different. But the user within that scope is someone that's looking to acquire and do a small amount of trading of cryptocurrency, on board with maybe Bitcoin Cash or Ethereum or Bitcoin, and look at other tokens that they might want to get into, and do that, most importantly, without having to leave funds on a custodial exchange. There might be a type of trader that does do that, where they're like, hey, we're doing high frequency trading, we're doing bot trading and whatnot. And then there's really not a good option other than currently centralized exchanges. I think DEXs are kind of, still coming to their maturity, not quite there yet. But for the idle trader, maybe, putting in a purchase or a sell order every few weeks or every few months, and also is relatively new to crypto, but that's what the frequency that they're looking at getting into or out of it. That's kind of the target audience of who we'd like to appeal to. And admittedly, I love hearing that there's projects targeting spending of crypto. That was my first core passion, and I want that to be upheld to its maximum degree, and us to actually use crypto over the long haul. But there's compromises you have to make in different products, because if you focus on one, it's hard to focus on another. And right now ours is, we want to eliminate the vast majority of users having to use a centralized exchange, because it's such a kind of systemic risk that it's hard for us to then focus on actual like spending. It's still usable as a spending wallet, but then there's going to be other options that are actually better at it than ours. And that's just something you have to admit and realize what you're not going to be good at. So we focus on that on-ramp, off-ramp trade experience.
Awesome. Matias?
Yeah, also love the diversity. Definitely we are targeted to users that want to spend their cryptocurrency. BitPay supports many big clients like AT&T and Microsoft, so we need to provide a very simple to use wallet that allow people to pay that invoices, that users that are maybe not that familiar with cryptocurrencies, but they want to pay these invoices, and we need to provide a wallet for that. While doing that, we also need to provide them some way to get better using crypto by, creating a multi-signature wallet or buying crypto to keep their crypto balance. So we provide that feature, but the main feature is the main target is users that want to spend their crypto.
Nice. Romit?
Yeah, so we are focusing mainly on non-crypto users, or the kind of user that say that we don't want to use cryptos, by basically hiding every single crypto-related stuff behind the UI and UX. We're already seeing that happen because of the services and the reward scheme that the wallet offers. We have a new feature on the wallet, which basically rewards SLP tokens for every single transaction that a user makes in India. So we're focused on India mainly at the moment, but not limited to India. So yeah, we have set up this non-custodial way of making your bank transfers. Yeah, so you don't have to connect Zapit to your bank account, but you can still send money to your friends, family. You can pay to merchants, and for every single transaction that users make, they get SLP token. So they don't really have to know that they're using a Bitcoin Cash wallet specifically. Even though they're not using Bitcoin Cash directly, they're still using a Bitcoin Cash wallet in their daily lives. That's what we are mostly focused on. And by giving these rewards, I think it's kind of we're seeing that users like this. We give a random SLP token as a reward. I think it's very similar to what HoneyPay is doing, but it's more user focused than merchant focused. So for every single transaction that they make, they get a reward. So it's basically focused on non-crypto users who don't necessarily want to use crypto or don't know how to use crypto. So that's the kind of users that we are focusing on and onboarding those users.
Cool. James?
Sure. So we have a wide range of users. I think mostly because we were the first SLP token wallet. So people who were just interested in trying out colored coins installed the wallet, and they probably continue to use the wallet. But also we have companies who actually use SLP tokens in their business workflow who need that more advanced feature set for SLP. And that's really who we cater to, is people who need the most advanced features for SLP tokens. We want to implement the entire SLP specification. So having that plus multi-signature support with hardware wallets allows people like companies to use SLP support reliably and securely. We provide a minting tool and burning tool, so people who want to manage their coin supply or need to use our wallet. There's not too many wallets that have those tools. And we also have the ability to manage non-fungible tokens and groups of non-fungible tokens. So that tool is also available in our wallet.
Nice. I know it's kind of you're not really representing a wallet here, Quest, but I guess who's the target audience of BCHD?
So I guess my target focus on most of my feedback for wallet is around the payments experience for day-to-day transactions, and the Neutrino wallet that I work on with Chris is really for I would say it's not really for the casual user right now. It's for privacy-focused users that do not want to show a third party what addresses they care about. It's the only wallet in this entire group that doesn't share your address list with a server or the network itself. So whether you're asking the peer-to-peer network about information about your addresses, or using normal Bloom filters and things like that, most wallets are asking something else for their address information, whereas the Neutrino wallet does not. And so that's probably the biggest differentiator. Built-in Tor. We do not have any SLP support today. That's being worked on with the SLP team in BCHD. And hopefully eventually there would be support for tokens, but that is not the primary focus. It has BIP70. It has all of the payment experience pieces. In fact, when I was in Townsville, I actually used that as my payment wallet the entire time and had a really good experience. But warning, there be dragons. It is beta. You may have, it's not quite final yet. And hopefully we can get a final build of Neutrino out soon.
Cool. And Tom.
Yeah, for me, the goal really is about giving it to the rest of the people. You know, it's not for traders, but it's for the majority of the normies, as you could say, for online or for in brick and mortar stores. And for me, it's more of a research project now. The actual payments can be made, but the wallet experience is something that needs a lot more experience research. You know, from payment protocols. BIP70 is fantastic, but it can be better. I want to use it for instance, wallet-to-wallet payments using a payment protocol. BIP17 can't do that. You need some more work there. And to come back to Quest on the privacy, I think there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do using several different technologies to also allow you a very private experience. So yes, you might leak a address to one single server or maybe two or three, but if you remember which server that is, and you only ask that same address to that same server again in the future, then it's not really a leak because you can't actually do any connection between payments and other transactions you do to other merchants. So there's a lot of options you can do to still be very scalable, because I think that's the one thing that's a little bit tricky with Neutrino. If you have very big blocks, it would be better to just use the Bloom filter. And so there's a lot of innovation going on that I think is going to be able to make it better for the average user to just make it something that just works.
Cool. Awesome. And so moving on from specific wallets, of course, you can use your own wallets as an example. I'm just going to open this up. Oh, looks like we lost somebody. I'm going to open this up to anybody who wants to kind of jump in here and just feel free. So what kind of things do you think makes users of wallets frustrated?
So I'm going to jump in here. Yeah. I think the number one frustration is wallet fragmentation and having to use multiple wallets all throughout their online experience. So as a Bitcoin Cash user right now, I have funds on Memo. I have funds on Read.cash. I have funds on my mobile wallet. I have funds in a desktop wallet. They all have different feature sets. My balance is split across them. And so the thing that I think that most users want is some unification of their payment experience, and I think that needs to happen on your phone. So I'm really excited about technologies, kind of like Coinbase's non-custodial wallet has Wallet Link, allows you to link your mobile wallet to a web application or and I think that that's something that users really want. They want one wallet. And they want to be able to track all of their payments and transactions and all of it. And they want it to work whether they're on desktop or on mobile or on site X or site Z. And they want it to just work. So compatibility with known protocols from third parties, plus the ability to have the same wallet experience, whether you're on desktop or mobile or linked to your mobile phone, I think is something that is what end users want from an ease of use perspective. And right now, things are they seem fragmented and difficult for them.
Yeah, that's
yeah, in a similar vein, I hear a complaint about Electron Cash SLP edition. You know, you can't have the mainline edition of Electron Cash open at the same time. Similarly, why don't we merge the SLP edition into Electron Cash mainline? You know, this is definitely in the pipeline. It just takes a long time because, you know, the code is complex and, you know, we're limited on resources to do that merge. But yeah, I definitely agree with Josh on that.
I think I'll both agree, but then also shed some light onto why we're at where we're at. I agree with Josh, and it's a frustration for me as well, having to use multiple different solutions. But at the same time, we are there because the industry is so diverse and became much more diverse with the advent of multiple currencies. And as more people enter the industry, we also find that different people want different things out of this technology. And so it's really hard to develop the one wallet. And really have found that the word wallet is actually, I hate the word now. I kind of hate the term because the term in and of itself is ill-defined. It doesn't tell you what the app does. It's a very baseline definition of these plethora of apps. The baseline is it can literally, the bare minimum is it can hold a key, or whether centralized or not, it can hold a key. That could be literally a piece of paper. It could be a USB stick. It could be an app on your phone. It could be a trading application. It could be a spending app. You name it. And so at this point, instead of calling them wallet, it's like, hey, do I want my spending app? Do I want my trading app? Do I want my vault app? Do I want some kind of business payroll application? We're finding needs for things like that. And so it's a challenge now to kind of fold that all into kind of one app, as well, considering the fact that we are still in a world with hundreds, thousands of cryptocurrencies, not each one, but many of them providing kind of unique functionality, where that unique functionality in itself is hard to incorporate into that one application. So I think we're going to be stuck in this unfortunate, over selection of wallets for quite some time, until things consolidate. In the meantime, we just take your best bet as to what people want to see inside of the different apps.
And if I may add on to that a little bit, the biggest issue I see where lots of companies come in and they end up having to make their own wallets and not really being able to build on top of an existing open source wallet. And so you end up with the different experience as you described. And it's not so much the position of the buttons or anything. It's more that you have different feature sets in the different wallets, and so you might get a very bad UTXO management in one, but you have a BIP70 support, etc. And that's also, I think, a bit of an issue where maybe it's not so much something we can fix for multi-chain wallets, but for Bitcoin Cash wallets, I think we can do better to share a bit more of the protocols and maybe even the code base.
Well, I think you bring up a really good point, Tom, and it hasn't been brought up, so I'm going to just go ahead and bring it up, is the back ends of these wallets are significantly different. So it also is the architecture of the indexing and, how the wallets deal with their back end. So some of them are leveraging Electrum X, some of them are leveraging other indexers, some of them are SPV, and they all have really big trade-offs when it comes to the actual back end infrastructure.
Yeah, my work here is really to work that out a little bit in the code base for Flowy, which is based on the classes that are already stable and come originally from the Satoshi client. To work on first having every wallet support the peer-to-peer protocol, the Bloom filters. But then if you say, hey, maybe for this wallet I don't care too much about my privacy, let's add an indexer to make it go faster. Something like that. I think that would be fantastic.
I think that's kind of the cause of a lot of the divergence and difference in implementations is just number one, caring a little bit about privacy, caring a lot, or caring nothing at all. And some wallets say we want to be as absolutely fast as possible, as lightweight as possible at all costs, while still somehow being non-custodial, where they do a full indexer, send an XPub off to a centralized server. They know every transaction you have and every transaction you ever will have, but there's almost nothing sitting there on the device. There's no validation happening at all on the device, and they're not connected to at all, any kind of public nodes. If that company goes down or their server goes down, there's no ability to connect to the network. But yes, you do get that experience of you launch the wallet and boom, there's your balance. There's no having to grab UTXOs and whatnot. And so there's that bit of a trade-off that you have to make, which most users don't even know is happening. They don't even know that there's that trade-off. And so you have to appeal to your demographic with what level of privacy or performance or experience you're trying to build.
Well, one reason I really like your wallet, Paul, for a multi-currency wallet is you hide the options of connecting to your node a little bit. It's nested in a bunch of options, but you use actually a public API instance. So while you are reliant on a third-party indexer and connectivity tool, it is open source and anybody can bring up their own and manage their own wallet with it. I think that is a design that is a great trade-off between some level of privacy and having kind of an indexer API that you need to connect to, because it's not an API that can be shut down. anyone can bring
Right,
up that API, and you can bring it up anywhere. And I think that's a really good middle ground for those that are using those types of API-focused wallets.
Cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, just to comment on that, at BitPay we do exactly the same. Actually, we did the Explorer and the indexer before the wallet. So our backend is completely open source, and you get to choose in the wallet to which server you want to connect. So if you want to start your own server and just use that one, you can do that and use our client, which is also open source, of course. But this is how we manage this compromise. But if you use just for the simple user, you can use our backend and it will run just fast, and we take care of the infrastructure.
But I think for regular users, most of you, whatever you spoke about, I think that is an issue because they don't know how to choose servers. They don't know what is a server, right? Say that they don't really know what to do. So this complicated terminologies is one of the frustrations that I've heard speaking to regular users. So, you know, if it's somehow hidden behind the UI, you know, in a way where you don't even have to call it server, you can find out better ways to do this. I think that would solve a lot of issues. But yeah, one more thing that I wanted to talk about is the backup, right? So we all know that, you know, once you back up your seed, we say that, yeah, your funds are safe. But not many people talk about what if you lose your backup phrase after you have backed it up. I think that's one of the issues that I personally have seen with, you know, my friends and people that I've spoken to, you know, crypto about. Yeah, they usually download the wallet temporarily. They kind of back up their seed. But, you know, I meet them after a month or two. They're like, oh, I lost it. I don't have it. You know, I don't know. I would have sent them like $1 or so worth of Bitcoin Cash. They're like, oh, I don't know how to recover it back because I've lost the seed. I've uninstalled the app or whatever it is. I did not know that Edge wallet had this, you know, encrypting with the login details. That's the same direction that we took as well. We kind of encrypt the private key and store it so that, you know, even if they do lose their backup phrase, they have another layer where it's protected by their password. You know, you can kind of recover your seed using 2 methods instead of just one. Of course, you know, this is not for crypto people. It's more for non-crypto users. But that's what we on Zapit is. We are focusing on that, basically.
So Romit, I don't know if you saw this video, but I actually invited Paul to QCon. This was, I think, last year. Might have been the year before, but he did a presentation about the exact login and credential flow he uses in Edge Wallet and how he manages the password-based login that he uses in Edge and makes sure that it's secure. It's actually a really good talk, and it's fairly short, so I would definitely search for that on the QCon website if you have some interest in that.
Sure. Yeah, I do. I actually did not know until Paul spoke about that. But that I feel like that's a good move for newer individuals until they learn what the backup phrase and, you know, those terminologies are.
You know, it's good that you bring this because in my notes, the first issue I see on wallet user is the backups and recovery. So I'm really glad that you guys are working on that. For our users, if we are talking about BCH, right? If we are talking about all the currency, cryptocurrency in general, by far the biggest issue that we see is confirmation times and fees. By far, confirmation times and fees. That's the problem. But if we are talking about BCH, the main issue would be backups and recovery. I think especially for younger users, the idea of having to write in a paper 12 words is just inconceivable, you know. so I'm really happy you guys are working on that. The first version of Copay did have we didn't use BIP39. We had encrypted storage, and the user with type of password, and we would encrypt the key on our server and then on Google. But that didn't work so well, and we didn't want to create a place where all the keys were encrypted that someone could, you know, grab it and try a ton of password on it. So we decided to kind of decentralize that. But again, I'm really happy that people are working because that's a bigger issue we see on our BCH wallet users.
Yeah, the main problem is that users have been trained that they can recover accounts in every other app they own. The crypto apps are the one app where if you lose your stuff, it's all gone and no one can help you. And that's just the reality that they're just not used to. And then the solutions to mitigate it are all bad, right? So it's like, okay, I can ask them to back up, and then they back up once. And then as Romit pointed out, they lose the backup. And then now you're going to nag them every 3 months, like, yo, put in your seed phrase because like you might have forgotten it. And that just is annoying. Nobody really wants their apps to do that. But at the same time, they really do because they really want to make sure they have their seed phrase. So I don't know how to best give a UX that works for everybody and is not naggy based.
You give an option, right? You give the option to, as a company, to encrypt their seed. If a user wants it, they can do it, or if they do not want, they don't have to.
Yeah, a lot of wallets have gotten grief about that, but I actually think that's a good solution. And it's unfortunate that passwords have lower entropy than the seed phrase they actually have. So they're actually reducing their security. But then there are multiple passwords involved. They need the password for the backup service, and they need the password to the bundle that was uploaded encrypted to the backup service. So hopefully the combination of both of those passwords is somewhat secure enough to hold their seed phrase. And if it's a mobile wallet, hopefully they're not holding millions of dollars on the mobile wallet.
You'd be surprised.
I guess it makes sense if, to back up and stuff if the community is small, but let's just imagine like an entire village is have backed up their keys in a written format, and then the village gets flooded, right? Well, you just destroyed the economy of an entire village, so which is a disaster. So, there has to be fail safes in a way.
Yeah, and brain wallets are bad, so let's not have anybody use brain wallets.
This discussion, Colin.
Cool. So thank you for whoever just donated. I didn't realize I was on. But yeah, so one kind of interesting question is, what kind of things do you think the users have not noticed about their frustrations, but would be good for them anyways?
For backing up, at least, some users often have problems where they discover that derivation paths exist, and so not every wallet follows the standard for, let's say, Bitcoin Cash. So like Crescent at first used like M/0, and that was like the only wallet that used that. And then like I think the Bitcoin.com wallet uses like M4500, and the standard's like M451450. And like whenever you back up or whenever you restore a wallet in a different wallet that doesn't follow that standard, all of a sudden it seems like your coins are gone, and the user has no idea what's happening. They think they just lost like thousands of dollars, and then you have to like go to a chat somewhere and then complain to someone and then have someone else like explain what happened. And so I feel like better education in regards to that, or just following a standard, would help mitigate that issue. Hey,
Tobias.
Hey, Tobias.
So I agree with you, Pokkst. I think that wallet developers should spend time to auto-detect the derivation path. It's not hard to scan 10 different derivation paths, first 20 addresses, and be like, have any of these had transactions before? And detect it for them and never ask them about the derivation path.
That's so true.
Tobias,
and in general, the security the security issue, I think, is something that most people will never notice. To come back to your original question, what do people not notice but really need? And I think that security, not the backup of their keys, but just, when I do a payment and I do some naughty purchase that doesn't get connected to my personal payments. So, when my neighbor starts to do some checking of the blockchain, that it doesn't find some compromising information. The thing is that it really is a silly statement right now, but fast forward 5 years and it isn't anymore. But all the payments I do now will forever be on the blockchain. So it is kind of like making a stupid statement on Facebook and then realizing you get fired or not get a job anymore. It's kind of the same thing. So you really need to be able to trust your wallets to keep your privacy.
I think one frustration is really poor URI handling in pretty much every mobile wallet I've ever used. I find that most of the URIs that I click on, maybe one wallet on my phone out of like 10 wallets that I'll have installed that I'm playing with, like actually can recognize the URI and handle it correctly. And I find that that's really kind of a pain. Some of the main wallets, they support it decently, but for instance, those Japanese developers that put up enhanced URI handling for Bitcoin Cash wallets in particular, and they were very unsuccessful in getting those newer URIs throughout the ecosystem. Anything other than like your plain Bitcoin URI is basically guaranteed to not be supported well.
All right, cool. So I know Paul's got to go soon, so I'm going to ask him a couple questions quick. So, Paul.
Trying to step out a little bit, kind of deal with some kids.
No, you're
outside. So you know
fine.
It is.
So Paul, what do you think a perfect wallet looks like?
Oh man, no, it's invisible because it doesn't actually exist, and so it looks like a unicorn is what I would say. And so the perfect wallet is, number one, it won't be perfect even if the user thinks that they found one that's perfect for them. But it's going to be dependent on the user. It's entirely going to be dependent on the user. And let's take the really, really bad analogy of what the heck is a perfect bank account. It doesn't exist. I might have one for really like a credit card is in some ways a bank account. It's a debt-based bank account. And I'll, have that for the purpose of being able to borrow money and be able to spend. Just reiterating what I kind of mentioned before, that we're going to have different options. We'll need that for the different types of people. But I think if I were to take some commonality across the different use cases of different wallets, I think if we were to manage to get to that perfect, you guys were talking about key management a while ago. I think the key management is going to be a piece that if we can make that as invisible as possible, as familiar to users as to what they've been using in the past, and yet somehow both secure and forgivable. Because really security is also, just like wallets are ill-defined, security has been ill-defined, is we try to think of security against just one thing as, can someone hack in and take my money? Like people have always defined security as that, but really I'd like to think of security as the overarching, what are the many different ways that someone will lose access to their money? At least this is security relative to cryptocurrency. And if you look at all those different ways and what's most likely for something to happen to a user, whether they screw it up or someone else screws it up for them, factor all that and then create the most secure solution where the user doesn't really have to think about security. They're just kind of doing what feels natural, what feels like a normal mobile app or a mobile desktop app in the financial world, and they kind of get that security built in. And so that's the fundamental kind of baseline. And then from there, it's the different features, right? The different features of, are you payments? Are you token? Are you NFTs? Are you DApp, smart contract stuff? That then becomes more specific to the user. But I think many different companies, including us, are trying to solve that base level of just key management. And I think the perfect wallet, each of its categories will solve that, which is going to be hard, which is why I think the perfect wallet doesn't exist, but we'll all strive to get there.
Sure. And before you go, Paul, I have a question. What do you want to tell or ask the Bitcoin Cash community? I know you're kind of, your wallet supports multiple currencies, and so you kind of have a different perspective from those deep in the space. So what do you got? What do you got on your mind?
Gosh, to ask the community, just keep charging on. I love the fact that so many of the things that other chains, whether it be BTC or ETH or whatnot, say, hey, you just can't do this. Try it. Find different methods of scaling. Actually push for fast payments that can be done on a UTXO-based chain. Push for the privacy features. I think that's what's kind of unique about the Bitcoin Cash community. Like from the onset when it had forked, was like, hey, we're going to try things that other people think don't work. And there's multiple facets by which you can keep trying those things that other people think don't work. And it's that kind of, I won't call it rebel mentality, because in a way it's still what I consider to be fairly reasonable trade-offs, but trying, because I think we need to kind of challenge that mindset of what cryptocurrency can and will do. So especially around payments. The funny thing is, even though we're not totally focused on payments. We support BIP70, or at least payment and JSON payment protocol inside of our app. Even though we're not 100% like laser focused on that, I want that to be very, very, very successful. So while we're maybe the trading wrap or the onboarding wrap app, I say keep focusing on payments, get adoption within the merchant community, and push that forward, because that's so critical to a currency's success. We can't just simply have it as pure store of value, gold and whatnot. You kind of need a balance of both.
Awesome. Yeah, great. So thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. I want to take off. Have a
Nice
great rest
seeing
of
you,
the coffee house. Yeah, pleasure as well, Josh. Take care, everybody.
Sounds great. Thanks, Paul.
Uh,
All right. So
If I can take a jab at that question, because you asked, I think, a question that I resonated quite well with.
Sure. Before keep that in your mind. Let's do your intro first. How about that, huh? So tell about yourself and your project, and then go ahead and segue into what you got on your mind now.
Yeah. So I make cards. I don't know. I think I've got cards laying around here. They are unprinted. I think I got printed ones as well. And yeah, for some reason I'm really nervous right now, so sorry about that. So yeah, I make payment cards for Bitcoin Cash. Currently I'm focused on SLP, and like I want to build something that like literally everyone could use. Like somebody who never heard of crypto, you should be able to onboard them like within, I don't know, 20 minutes, and they don't need to learn a ton of stuff. They don't need to learn like what is a seed phrase or something. Like you just give them the wallet, give them a backup, give them the app, make them back it up with the card, send them a bunch of stuff, and they are done. Like if they want, they can learn more, but they shouldn't be like required to, not even like what is a QR code or stuff like that. I mean, if they want, they should be able to. But yeah, I'm not sure if that's working right now, but why don't we just do one of those many demos I already made? Oh, it's a bit too bright, I guess. Yes, it should just work. Yeah, that. And do a payment. And yeah, I think that's what it's all about. So to answer your question, you asked Paul, was it Paul?
Yep.
It's a wallet that always works. So it never basically fails. Even if you don't have internet, and it should you don't have to learn a bunch of stuff to be able to use it. So yeah, that's my jab at that, and that's what I'm working on. That's why I'm looking at how can you use the capabilities of Bitcoin Cash, like smart contracts, SLP, this crazy stuff like object datasig verify. How can we use that to actually make a user experience that's as close as possible to existing financial to the existing financial infrastructure, without giving up own your own keys. That's probably the biggest innovation of Bitcoin, where it's you literally have full control of your own money and nobody else does. And I mean, currently that comes with a lot of costs. So I don't use Bitcoin Cash as much as I use Zero, because there are a lot of costs to it, like volatility, and it isn't accepted everywhere. And it's sometimes pretty cumbersome to use. And especially when when you don't have internet, like happened with me in Australia. So yeah, I want to make sure that that's fixed, basically.
So I want to kind of extend on that. I love the work you're doing, Tobias. It's awesome to see cards that anybody can use. But I also think that most of the wallets, they don't behave like the services that we see on our phones already. So we look at Google Pay, right? How often do I open the Google Pay app? Never. I never open the app. It's built into my phone. When I need to use Google Pay, I wave my phone near something and it magically gives me a confirmation screen no matter where I'm at. It looks like it's built into the OS. That's the wallet experience that it needs to happen on a phone for regular normies to use it. They need it to be easy to integrate with other apps. If right now, if you have a mobile wallet and you have another app, I'm ordering my food on Grubhub or some app. There is no nice way for them to integrate the payment there. There is no nice set of protocols that make it simple for two mobile apps on the same device to easily make a payment with your wallet. This is insane, because that's probably one of the more common use cases out there. So, okay, I'm opening it up. I want to buy something. Okay, they showed me a QR code. I can't scan it on the same device. Now I'm cutting and pasting, and now I'm putting my address material on a clipboard that can be modified by other apps. We've already seen people get funds stolen from these types of solutions. And I think that the integration with other applications on your phone and in your life in general needs to be significantly easier if you're going to be competing against, the Google Pay and Apple Pays of the world.
But to get better integration, you probably don't need a better wallet. You need a nice wallet, but what you really need is a much wider industry adoption, because you want to have those Grubhub or whatever apps actually integrate with some protocol standard or whatever. You want to have those online apps. You want to have those people paying salaries. All of them need to actually integrate with Bitcoin Cash, because what we seem to be doing a lot in our community is we try to recreate existing solutions, whereas I think it's going to end up that we end up working with existing industries in order to get them to integrate with us. So for me, it's the wallet solution, the perfect wallet solution is more of a base layer that can be reused by a lot of companies, and they can actually end up doing those payments that, like you say, without be getting in your face, and then the actual app is just there to show, I did a payment to this person at this time, and et cetera, et cetera. So for more of a bank statement, that's what you use your app for then. That's kind of my futuristic view.
Yeah, but for that to happen, we need to make it kind of a no-brainer for people, for services to accept like Bitcoin Cash. And right now, I think it's actually like if you're a big company and you, for example, with Steam, we had it, like they dropped support for Bitcoin because there were problems with that. And I think if we want to get mainstream adoption, then we need to also, probably in lockstep with adoption, solve all the UX problems, because then companies that are very concerned about UX, they will be very reluctant to accept crypto and Bitcoin payments, because it'll just be too, like, it'll actually degrade their product in the short term, which we don't want to see. Like we need to be good with wallets, with the UX, so people never lose funds and transactions never get stuck, payments never get reversed, and stuff never gets sent to the wrong address, which like we already talked about. And I think that's a very, very big prerequisite to get adoption for. It would be super cool if Apple just integrated Bitcoin into their, like, into every phone. Yeah, I mean, but maybe we can make it so it will happen. Like, from my perspective, I want to see this happen, and I set my goals so that eventually we are able to make like phone companies integrate Bitcoin payments by default, because it's more it makes sense for them. For example, what we could do is that we approach phone companies and say to them, okay, yeah, just install this wallet, and each payment that is made with this wallet, you get like 0.1% of the transaction volume. Then they directly make money with each payment, and there literally is no middleman. Like they just have the wallet, and a portion of that just gets sent over to them. But for that to happen, obviously, we can't just like pick any like old wallet. We have to have the infrastructure. We have to have the wallet UX. We have to have the protocols, like the NFC stuff I'm working on. I think that's pretty essential for that to happen.
Apart from
I disagree
I think we need
a little bit.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I kind of disagree a little bit regarding the payment experience is a major problem on adoption right now. I think I understand that what you're saying, and I kind of disagree on that. I think that for many of the companies that we handle, the payment experience is just as smooth as I can imagine. You know, if you're going to pay an AT&T invoice right now, I think that the payment is very, very smooth, whether you scan the QR or you are browsing the site on your phone and paying within your phone. I think it's fairly smooth. I don't think that's the biggest problem we have for adoption.
Yeah, but Josh
right
already
now.
mentioned a bunch of problems we had, like with the.
Yeah. I see. For example, if you don't have internet, that's definitely a problem. But if I weigh that against other problems I think we have with adoptions, I think it's not a big deal. For example, as we mentioned before, you know, backups and recovery, I think that's a big problem. I think how the price is changing all the time, I think that's a problem with payments. I don't know if we are talking about BCH, that would be it. But if we are talking about other currencies, fees, confirmation time, you mentioned Steam. Steam is, we lost Steam because the fees, you know, it's not related to Bitcoin Cash. For a company that sells, I don't know, that the average ticket is $5, paying $2 fee it's not possible. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I still think that we need to improve on that front. I mean, I could go through like the Bitcoin.com wallet and be like, oh yeah, this sucks, this could be improved, but that's like probably not the right space here. And like I lost my train of thought. Somebody else continue. I said it looks awkward.
Well, when I say the integration pieces like deep linking and URI support and being able to do cross-app easy integrations, that's not just limited to payments. As these chains get more complicated, these types of features need to work for any of the contracts that we're using. When I am leveraging things like a future contract like any hedge or any of that stuff, I want it to be just as seamless with my phone. And I want to be able to use advanced features, not just payments. And
ideally just on the back end. For example, any hedge is a great example, which just could be on by default and you never even have to know that it exists.
Exactly. And that's why Ethereum has, worked pretty well for a lot of users. Is there's a lot of problems, you don't know exactly when your stuff's going to confirm. Gas fees have been super high. But then you look at MetaMask, you look at the wallets that have built-in DApp support. And it's like, yeah, I open up a website and it's in my wallet and therefore I'm just logged in. I didn't have to put a password in. It detected my keys. It showed me the features for my smart contracts. It allowed me to click some buttons just like a normal web GUI and be able to do stuff. Those linkages are important. And yeah, right now, the main use case for BCH is to be able to be used for payments and, now a lot of SLP token transfers and things and basic contracts. But the experience of using those contracts isn't great. And right now, the closest thing we have on the web side is Badger Wallet. And Badger Wallet, it's not that it's a bad product, but it is slow. Sometimes I open up Badger, it takes like 30, 40 seconds for me to even start getting my balances in the wallet. And when someone's on the web, when we talk about 250 milliseconds and they'll leave your website. What's going to happen when they wait 60 seconds to click on the extension to load their SL? No one wants to do that, man. So that user experience is critical to me, and better integrations, especially for smart contract type features, is something I think we all need to work on.
I think a big thing there is that right now it feels like building a wallet isn't like profitable. Like you get maybe donations or maybe like Bitcoin.com does it where you get, they add referral links and they make money based on those links. But I think like we want to replace Visa, we want to replace all these companies. They charge a fee. They require money. So I think it's a bit of a it's a bit weird that wallets don't charge any money. I think it takes I don't know how many engineers Google or Apple has just on their payment system, and how many millions they spend just on nailing the wallet, the UX of that thing. And if we just rely on voluntary donations, or maybe just referral links on some other app, then I don't think we'll be able to get there. And and we actually have quite a big margin to undercut like Visa and MasterCard, especially in the US.
Well, on the wallet side, I'm really surprised that no one charges for a wallet. So what is another app that most cryptocurrency people have on their phone? They have a price list. So they have something that's like tracking the prices of all of their coins and their assets and stuff. And they pay $5 extra just so they could get dark mode. I mean, like, come on, guys, like, get creative with your wallet. Have the APK for download on GitHub if they don't want to pay for it. And then when you put it on Google Pay, make it $2. Give the code away. Let them build the APK. Let them do all the stuff. And then when you package it up and you deal with Google, charge them for the fact that you had to deal with Google. I don't understand why no one wants to make money. It's like you can give it away for free and still monetize it.
Yeah,
I think
I definitely agree with that. For BitPay, it's kind of a different game, but I definitely think that independent wallets should have this, kind of maybe a freemium model that you charge for certain features. But it's really strange that we don't see that more often. Good point.
Well, can I just step in? Zapit, just with the latest update, we introduced premium features, and we introduced the SideShift AI coin swap feature for BCH to USDH. We basically made it premium feature where users, to access that, they have to make payment with our own SLP token, which is called Zap, right? So in a way, we're giving that utility to the token as well. And to get the token, there are multiple ways they're rewarded, but in a way they are still making a Bitcoin Cash payment to access that service. And a lot of people have done it. We have a cool animation when it swaps. It's pretty easy. It happens within a minute. So yeah, it's an experimental feature that we introduced, but I think that's the right direction that every other wallet should be going as well. But yeah, I think when you guys are talking about the perfect wallet aspect, I think, yeah, it should be as close to traditional financial apps as possible. That's why the way Zapit is built, again, this specific feature is just for India. Again, we are experimenting with how this would work out. But basically, the QR code scanner works for both, like the rupee payment in India as well as a Bitcoin Cash payment. So it doesn't matter whether the merchant has, a Bitcoin Cash QR code or a rupees QR code that they would receive to their bank account. With Zapit, a user can basically scan either of them and make a payment. Again, we don't hold the funds, both BCH or rupees. It happens in a non-custodial way. I think this feature, because we can push this feature to literally anyone in India, because they can make bank transfers as well, I think this has huge potential. I think we need to find solutions like this for every country. Now, of course, I am not aware of how everything works in most of the countries. I was aware of this feature, how I can leverage it for users to switch to using a Bitcoin Cash wallet. Yeah, now that users can make regular payments on Zapit, it's only a matter of time where we can start introducing services where they will have to top up their wallet, which is basically buy Bitcoin Cash, and start using Bitcoin Cash in their daily lives.
Good luck with that. I love it.
Awesome. Okay, so here's some question from earlier from Chris Troutner. So it kind of goes back to what we were talking about probably about a half hour ago, but individually, What do you think about a modular approach versus a vertical approach to wallet design? Have you taken a vertical integration approach by owning the full stack, or have you taken a modular approach by focusing on one aspect of the wallet and trying to leverage other people's work?
I've done the full stack because everything Bcash does is kind of new. I mean, I use the SLP-DB, but on top of that, I have to build a lot of additional stuff because of the just the nature of the wallet.
Yeah, Neutrino's a custom wallet. Lots of custom things, requires BCHD, for instance, for it to work and get the filters that it needs. So most of that is, but I think we need to definitely look at building blocks. I'm going to call out Pokkst here. His work on Bitcoin Cash J, really, really useful for Android developers. So what I think needs to happen is wallet developers need to just be conscientious that, when we increase the size of the pie, number of users that are using cryptocurrencies, that helps all of us. And when we are working with underlying libraries, when we're building our projects, we should be paying close attention to how we can help those underlying libraries be better for not only ourselves, but for the rest of the community. And that could be basic things like helping them with documentation, helping them with minor bug fixes, because that's something that is a force multiplier for our ecosystem.
Yeah, one of the nice things about Electron Cash is the plugin system that they've built. So it allows anybody to sort of hook into the code without having to integrate directly into their source code.
I would like to thank
your question.
Okay.
The question that Colin asked earlier about the stack. For Flowey Pay, the stack is basically the Flowey libraries, and I'm using the Qt framework for the GUI. So there's a lot of work done by other people there, but on the crypto side, it's mostly sharing code with the full node implementations.
Cool.
Romit, you wanted to say something?
Go ahead, Romit.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank James Cramer for helping out with the Dart libraries that enabled SLP usage on Zappit.
You're very welcome. I'm glad to see SLP integrated. You did a great job on that, and quickly too. So that was the best part.
He's helped a lot of us. He also writes the BCHD gRPC libraries that I use. So, yeah.
So cute.
James is prolific.
I can second that. Very helpful in my minor issues I had.
Hey, Tobias, I was watching the show. It's called The Expanse. I think it's on Amazon. But they have these little chip cards that they exchange. I think they use it as money. But it made me think of your project, and I'm thinking, maybe, I don't know if we could take some inspiration from that show, but basically it's like each chip had some money on it and they can just exchange with each other the chips.
Like physically? Yeah.
Yeah, physically.
Yeah,
so
I actually thought about that, because those things, if you trust the code on there, I mean, you can't look at the code on there. You could basically put a private key, not you put the private key on there, you generate a private key on there, because they have cool features, like they call it true random generator, where it basically takes the entropy of some circuits. I guess they just leave them open or something and just get whatever random noise of the environment gets in there. So you can generate numbers on the chip, which are completely unpredictable. And you can derive a public key from that and derive a address from that. So you can send money onto that chip, but you can keep it sealed. So you can say, okay, the code verifies that it will never leave the chip. And I mean, there have been 4 decades of research on ensuring that the secrets aren't leaked into the environment. So you could you could send money onto the chip, and then provide a Merkle proof along with the transaction onto the card. So you could literally make offline to offline payments, where you verify, you have some knowledge of the blockchain. You store the, actually you don't need it. You should store the headers on there and just the Merkle proof that it's in one of the headers. And if you trust the headers, which most people do, you could just verify that the coins are actually on the card and they can never leave the card, except if you have like some redeeming mode, because that would be kind of dumb, because then they would be just burned. But then the card remembers, oh yeah, I'm actually redeemed, and it won't show the proof again. So you could pretty trustlessly verify offline to offline payments, which could be done. I mean, cards are probably the wrong form factor for that. It would be cool to have like the same thing, but in form of like a coin, you know? So eventually it would be really cool if we could also have that kind of stuff. But I think adoption would be pretty hard. Like I tried to come up with, okay, wait, how do you actually verify the chips? So maybe like
Tobias,
a funnel.
What you're missing there, what you can really simply add is just signing a message, like for instance that a Merkle proof with some challenge that somebody verifying does. Sign it with the private key that is on there, and suddenly you have a card that.
Yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I meant. Yeah.
You'd never spend from it because it just has, you know, your 25 euros, and you never spend it because you just give it to the next person.
Yeah, exactly. And you have 0 transaction fees. So, I mean, there obviously are
it's off chain.
Yeah, exactly. It's completely off chain. You can transfer it physically. It never leaves the card, except if you want to redeem it for some reason. That'll probably be done by the mint. So you could have people use specialized hardware for that. And yeah, but you can verify it by sending a challenge, as Tom said. And of course, if you don't know the blockchain, then having some blockchain info on there would be necessary. And so I think this might be interesting for countries which are very isolated, but which still have, regarding internet, but which still have a basic infrastructure like NFC phones or something like that. I think that could work there, maybe somewhere in the outskirts in the world. Then it might work there. But I think with stuff like Starlink from Elon Musk, I think the requirement for having offline to offline payments isn't that necessary. So that's why I kind of like put the idea into, you know, my cupboard and be like, okay, let's focus on offline to online payments, because that's what we have right now and which are people used to. So I think, yeah, maybe I'll unbury the idea and work more on that. But
yeah, I think you're right, Tobias. I think that most of the world, strangely enough, does have some level of internet access. It's about low bandwidth and being able to support offline user to online merchant. Most merchants are going to have an online presence, and that's just continuing to increase. The real use cases for completely offline and care about crypto is pretty damn small.
Yeah, that's exactly my thinking.
I think those cards would be awesome if there's a little display on them that says how much money you have on them, like a little. I think that
they exist, but they cost like 10 times more.
Oh, really?
And people aren't used to it. So I have it in my radar, and I'm in contact with manufacturers of those cards. But I like if I can nail the user experience for these stupid cards, then I'll be able to nail the user experience for cards that are smarter. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
What's the cost of one card, or the lowest cost you've seen?
So like the production is pretty cheap. So yeah, you can just go on Alibaba and order them. So if for MyFair cards, which can't sign stuff, they are like 50 cents or so. But these cards are more expensive. If you go on Alibaba, you can get them for $3.50. Of course, you then have to do printing, you have to do lasering, all the stuff. So that drives up the costs. But if you have like a quantity of 1 million or so, then it can become ridiculously cheap. Especially if we do like 10 million, I guess you could have them for, I don't know, like 10 cents per card. And then you can literally hand them out for free in some areas, which which might be really, really good for adoption. And then like the way Bcash works is that the card ensures that a certain percentage will also be sent to Bcash. So I would still like make money by broadcast, like by people spreading them. And actually, I've got an affiliate mechanism on there, so that you can buy cards, like you can buy 10,000 cards from Bcash, for example, and then program your own address onto the card. And then you can distribute that on like meetups or like to friends or family or whoever. And each payment they make, you will get a certain small percentage. I'm still trying to figure it out, something above 0.1%. And you will get some money for each payment. And if they use it regularly, and then you are kind of incentivized, you know, to get people to use the card, I think it could spread pretty rapidly. I mean, I don't see why not, especially if we solve all UX problems. If people make money by onboarding people to Bitcoin Cash, like, and they could maybe make a living off of that, and especially like a prospect of high rewards in the future, then yeah, I think then we kind of solved the adoption problem.
Do you see similar technology being useful in like IoT, where, I don't know, maybe like shipping containers would have similar technology so that you can track locations and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty universal technology. I would have to think more. It's like I don't know the problems the shipping industry has. I'm not a shipper. I've never been on a freight ship.
Maybe that's beyond the scope of this.
Yeah.
Never been a big shipper.
OpenDime, yeah. Pokkst mentioned OpenDime. Yeah, I think OpenDime is a really, really cool thing. The one issue I have it that you kind of destroy the whole thing if you redeem it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cumbersome to use. But I think we could build on top of and you need to use USB to nobody will go to a merchant and be like, oh yeah, let me plug in my 5 OpenDimes into your yeah. But as I said, I'm not super like, okay, this is the future. I'm like, okay, I don't see the direct.
Yeah, so the person that has the OpenDime gets the security and then has to convince someone to plug in an untrusted USB device. It's just insane.
It's a good starting point, though.
Lots of nice research projects still to be done.
Yeah. I still stand by, okay, let's put it into the drawer and work on the other kinds of payments first. But yeah, it's a really cool project, and yeah, something that apparently is able to survive. So that's good.
These cards you're using at a club here, they use them to open the door. So you basically have some same private key on them, and you can just enter the door, and then every month or so a new private key is uploaded to the key lock. So you need to actually renew your subscription. It's kind of funny. It's a piece of hardware, but you basically have all the power of software.
It's a computer, like it's a full computer. It can store data, it has RAM, it can calculate stuff. I mean, it's very slow, so it around 1,000 times slower to sign stuff than on like my MacBook. But I mean, look at it. It's like it's this small of a chip. Like obviously, it's going to be slower than my MacBook.
Awesome. So we'll probably go through individually again. So suppose Bitcoin Cash becomes a big part of the world economy. So, oh my God, we get hyper Bitcoinization, Bitcoin Cashization. Where do you want to see Bitcoin Cash / your wallet being used? So, like ideal, what's the end goal for your wallet? We'll start with Tom.
So I think since the goal of Flowy Pay really is to have a lot of features in there that make it as simple as possible for the user, take away as much of the work for the user as possible. I think it would be fantastic to have the actual wallet used by a lot of, normies, normal people that just store their money on it, and at night it does some cash fusion. And since there are different privacy segments on there, so you can, for instance, have a segment for your normal spending, something for your housekeeping, and that kind of thing, to keep your privacy different, separated. That helps you avoid any sort of blockchain introspection and binding, connecting them. I think that means there's a lot of extra audience you can reach. It's just not just the people in America or the household, but also the people that are trying to stay under the radar of their government. So it's a bit. I think if you have a good piece of software that has a skinnable UI, it becomes really easy to use it on for different user groups. So it's a bit of a simple way of saying, well, everybody, except for maybe the traders, as I mentioned before. I think it doesn't make sense to have one product that targets both of those groups. So that's kind of the only part that I'm kind of excluding.
Sure. Before we move on, Carol asked, how do your offline payments work?
Oh, mine?
No, Tom's.
Oh, Flowy, sorry. Yeah.
So offline payments is basically, it's kind of a feature of BIP70. So you can work with a server, and you get the basic transaction from them, you sign it, and you give it back to the actual merchant, and they broadcast it to the network. So the only thing you really need to be offline is to have a direct connection with that merchant. So you can have something like a QR code that you animated QR codes. In the Netherlands, there's a bank that actually has colored QR codes to put more information in, or you just use NFC. And so basically you can stay offline by having your merchant actually broadcast your transaction. There's a bit more to it. I can point to a blog later.
Sure.
Have you been able to solve like the round trip problem? Because like for NFC, like what the issue I was trying to solve is that when you like you tap the card and it says like, okay, this is my address, please give me UTXOs. Then it'll go back to the server, and then it'll send you back some UTXOs. You sign those UTXOs and the recipient, and then you'll hand over the signatures, and then the server or the merchant can broadcast them. But there is like this extra round trip. Do you know what I mean? Have you been able to like remove that round
say,
trip?
I don't like it. And the merchant can basically say, I don't like it because, for instance, you're spending a UTXO that I don't know about. So you have to follow up saying, hey, here's the transaction you're also missing, or other things. So basically, you need to end up with a slightly complicated or different version of the payment protocol. There is a Telegram group where this has been discussed already. I can show you the drafts where a next version of a payment protocol has been designed for this, that specifically addresses these kind of things. So, if you send them a transaction to a merchant and they say, hey, I'm sorry, but your fee is too low, or your transaction has 20 transactions already that are not confirmed yet, you might need to indeed create a new transaction and send that to the merchant and hope they didn't actually broadcast the first one.
Interesting. Yeah, I should definitely have a look at that. I think I contacted you on Telegram already.
And then Tobias, check out the link I put in the chat around like the deep linking stuff that Yenem did, because they had different URIs for things like unsigned transactions and other more complicated URIs to facilitate this as well.
Oh, deep link payment. Yeah, I will definitely have a look at that. That looks very, because I'm currently a bit like stuck, because I kind of have to develop a new protocol, because my stuff is just so different. And if I'm able to build on existing stuff without like compromising, or like without everybody having to re-implement a bunch of stuff to support Bcash, that would be tremendous.
Yeah, I'll give you a message afterwards.
Cool. And so, Josh, I guess you could talk about BCHD or Neutrino. Yeah, I mean Neutrino. Bitcoin Cash is hyper Bitcoinization. Where do you see BCH? Where do you see Neutrino fitting in?
So Neutrino I see for privacy conscious customers with slightly faster internet. So as Tom Z did point out a little earlier, there is a trade-off for Neutrino, and that trade-off is higher bandwidth utilization than other wallets. In order for me not to disclose addresses, I need to occasionally download a block, and as block sizes increase, the amount of data throughput that's required will increase. Now, with the prevalence of 4G and 5G networks, actually for the foreseeable future, we don't see that being much of a problem in the modern world where you get fast internet. But for slow internet consumers, they're just not going to be able to use the Neutrino spec at scale. They'd be able to use it on 1 meg blocks, but not on any substantially sized blocks. So that is something that we've talked about. Ways to break up blocks is separate filters. So instead of downloading a single filter for a block, you basically get maybe N filters for a block and be able to know which part of the block you need to download to see the transactions you care about. There's other stuff to still figure out there, as how do you know that partial piece of a block is valid? But there are some scaling solutions that I think would allow Neutrino to work. So I actually think Neutrino will be mainly for Europe and Asia and North America. Probably won't be as prevalent in areas of Africa with slow internet or South America. And for those, the API server model for wallets that optimize for low bandwidth, I think are going to be better solutions for those markets. Also, some of those markets just don't care about privacy. They just care about having money that works, as a lot of them are using mobile money or other solutions very well that don't give them any privacy today. So they could probably deal with like a one address wallet and it wouldn't even be a big deal for them because they just don't care. So there's a huge difference in the user behaviors. So for Neutrino, I see it as, higher end users that want more privacy, and it can be a mainstay wallet as long as you have reasonable internet connection. I think that adding SLP support will be something that's important. I do like the idea of being able to swap between tokens and BCH. I'm not a huge fan of stablecoins, but that doesn't mean that there aren't some solutions where stablecoins make sense, especially when you see consistent downward movement in the markets. It's a really nice temporary safe haven to try to protect the value you have in your wallet, especially if you can do that really quickly and non-custodially. So like if you can do it where I can swap to a stablecoin when I see downward momentum on the price, these types of things could be very useful to end users. Also, a lot of payment processors may be wanting those swap features at point of sale because they don't want to take the volatility risk of accepting crypto. So I want to pay with BCH and everybody's cool with me paying in BCH. The moment I send them money, it's USDH or USDC or some other stable coin where they can sit on it for a month if they want to and not worry about depreciation or appreciation. They don't get any upside either. But it is safer for their business. They know they get the money they need to keep the doors open. So Neutrino I see as being, a general purpose wallet for parts of the world, but not everybody needs Tor or high privacy. And it is higher bandwidth than SPV wallets, and SPV wallets are even higher bandwidth than, your basic API server wallets. So I think it'll be a mix of those three technologies, to be honest. And it really depends on the privacy guarantees they want and the amount of bandwidth that they have available for their wallet.
Sure. Okay, James, how do you see Electron Cash, SLP, and Electron Cash existing in hyper Bcashization world?
Yeah, well, hopefully SLP gets merged into the main line shortly here. So then SLP edition will just kind of go away and we can focus on the overhead of just one wallet. As far as SLP goes, I think one of the problems that we have in our society is just a lack of equity and ownership for common workers, in their companies that they work for. And I would like to see SLP tokens being used in ways that reward and empower the employees that work for those companies in the form of equity and ownership to help incentivize better employee performance and productivity, which would definitely result in just more prosperity for everybody. So with that, basically, we want to create a very robust rewards toolbox for distributing rewards to token holders using the Electron Cash platform. So yeah, that's sort of our vision for the future of SLP with that wallet.
Cool. Ramen?
Yeah, I just unmuted. Yeah, so we call Zapit the universal payment app because the way we have built it, it should be used by anyone and anyhow. So one thing that I usually like talking about Zapit is that you can literally use it anyway. So you can use the BCH wallet to make a Bitcoin Cash to Bitcoin Cash transfer, but using the other services, you can literally send your Bitcoin Cash, but the receiver can receive in fiat. You can do the other way around as well. You can send in fiat and the receiver can receive in Bitcoin Cash. But also through the non-custodial features that we have introduced, you can also do fiat to fiat within Zapit. Now that may be limited to countries and it may be limited to how large our payment partner network is. So basically, since we have P2P, like the exchange built into the wallet, the way we are approaching it is we are not taking the order book approach where, a user either looks for an order or places an order and then somebody else, they just have to wait for somebody else to pick up their order, right? The way we do it is a user just places an order. That's it. Just like, one would do in a custodial exchange. And the liquidity provider is what we call a payment partner. So we are basically sharing 50% of our fees with a payment partner. So that's what we are hoping to grow at the moment to make this a much better experience around the world so that, users can use it any way possible. It does not matter whether the user wants to use Bitcoin Cash or fiat. It doesn't matter whether the merchant wants to use Bitcoin Cash or fiat. All the four conditions kind of matches on Zapit, and even remittance works the same way as well. So basically, the peer-to-peer remittance allows users to send using their fiat or their Bitcoin Cash, and the receiver in country B can receive it in either Bitcoin Cash or fiat. It's totally up to them. I think this kind of model would work better in terms of a large growth in users, because again, it's up to the users how they want to use it, right? It does not matter which currency they use. As long as everything is hidden behind the wallet, it should work. But we are trying to extend the same model with SLP tokens as well. You send using any token and the receiver basically receives using any currency. So I think, in a model where this becomes a reality, I think that's where, we can see Bitcoin Cash shine.
Cool. Matias, I've got a question for you in the chat. So what are the expectations of BitPay's prepaid MasterCard as an additional revenue stream? And can you share the percentage of BCH transactions on BitPay as opposed to the other cryptos?
Yeah. So the prepaid MasterCard is just another option that we provide for users to spend crypto. MasterCard network is huge, and having the ability to top up that card with cryptocurrency, I think creates a lot of bridges to the normal economy, to the already deployed economy. So I think it's a great option for crypto users to have that and use crypto in places that we wouldn't be able to use it anywhere on other if that wasn't an option. So that's regarding the MasterCard. And regarding BCH, it changes, but it's about 3% to 5% of the total volume invoices. We are deploying a public website with those stats that you can check live that. So I will share a link later.
Nice. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. And then how do you see hyper Bcashization world? How's BitPay fit into this?
Right. So what we want to do is just to be the core of the everyday financial functions of the user. If you want to go online and buy one thing, you use the BitPay app to pay that. If you go to the store next door and you want to buy some things, you use the BitPay app for that. If you want to buy more crypto, you won't probably trade with the BitPay app, but if you want to feel your crypto again, you can use BitPay app for buy crypto. You can, if you hold a significant amount, you can use a multi-sig. You can use our multi-sig feature to hold that. So we want to be the core of your crypto financial world. In that sense, me being an Argentinian and being in a place where currency is really bad. My personal dream with cryptocurrencies and always been is that I would love that everyday people that don't have banks, a lot of people here don't have bank account and don't have access to hard currencies like the dollar or whatever. So they are bound to use currencies that are very inflationary. So I would love to provide tools for that people to access currencies in which they can really save, for the future. So that's my dream being an Argentinian. This is very important for me. And just to challenge a little bit what you said before, I think privacy here is very, very important. People is very used to use cash, and in Africa also. So privacy is default, and because the government is so oppressed in financial issues, privacy is very important. That's all.
Awesome. And how does B.Cash fit into Bcash? Well, that's just Bcashization, hyper.
So which way, Bcash into Bitcoin Cash or Bcash, B.Cash into?
Yeah, Bitcoin Cash is everywhere. Is everybody got a Bcash card?
Yeah, so that's the goal. That basically we replace credit card payments with Bcash. I mean, that sounds a bit megalomaniac, but I mean, we got to aim high, do we? So for that, maybe a bit, and maybe more. Like currently, we're used to having just having cards. But what if Bcash chip would be included, as how do you say it in English? As part of your clothes, or maybe you have some cool necklace that you can pay with, something like that. So just that it becomes a part of culture, that you express the way you pay. I mean, we already have this with Apple Watches, where you pay with your watch, basically. But why? I mean, maybe it's a bit crazy, but why not extend that to other parts of things? Wearable, thank you. And for that, and also have it as an expression of oneself. The road to that is that Bcash will have B.Cash, and I don't care. B.Cash will need a lot of innovations to provide both really good, user experience for there is no delay, it's always reliable, and also privacy. I'm working on some stuff because right now how Bcash works is just a single UTXO wallet, because that's how smart contracts work on Bitcoin Cash. But eventually with stuff like Mitra that I'm working on, and hopefully we get something pre-consensus stuff like Avalanche in there, so we have reliable payments. or super reliable payments, however you want to define it. This will basically make the payments extremely extremely private and also extremely fast and reliable. And I think this will, like, the ideal location for B.Cash is the US, because credit card fees are kind of high and everybody uses credit cards. This is a good entry market because people don't care as much about privacy there, though they wave the Gadsden flag all over the place. But but for countries like Venezuela, where like that would be the extreme case, where credit card fees are so high that nobody uses them, and the money is completely unsound, and you have to care about privacy a lot because the government will take your bread. Then that's very important. And another thing I wanted to mention, on stable coins, I think we will probably have to use stablecoins for quite a while to get it to grandma, basically, because there is actually a big mind shift kind of thing you have to go through from I have my dollars to I have some other coin which is kind of denominated in US dollars, but it goes up and down in value a lot. What I have found in my personal experience, that this is actually quite a hard concept for people to grasp, that your money goes up and down in value relative to the stuff you're used to. And for that, for now, we probably have to use centralized stablecoins as intermediary. And of course, it would be cool if we could have, that's probably the reason I proposed Mitra, to be can we actually add some small changes to the Bitcoin transaction format so that we actually can have stuff like like they have on MakerDAO with Ethereum, because a stable value is probably one of the biggest problems. It's one of the biggest problems we have with Bitcoin Cash adoption. So my kind of end goal for Bitcoin Cash and Bcash is that we have some really good stablecoin infrastructure. Maybe if the dollar collapses, we move to some basket of things, and then eventually, once Bitcoin Cash gets a stable value because it's used by everyone, then it'll be normal to just use Bitcoin Cash directly.
Cool.
Well, I think that it's also a catch-22 on the growth rate of the currency, right? So the reason that people care about the volatility right now is because it's a lot of the same people doing crypto over and over again. We're not bringing in enough new users, which means that the price is usually either stagnating or lately it's been going down. And nobody wants to open up their wallet and see their money go down. If every time they open their wallet, it was only going up, they would not care that it is volatile. They literally wouldn't care. They'd be super happy. If every time they opened their wallet, it looked like they had more money, they'd be happy. So I don't think it's volatility. It's, the any expectation that they don't want to ever see it go down is really what the problem is. And if we get to a higher growth curve of more users using it, more merchants accepting it, actual real adoption in the greater economy, well, the economic state that hopefully that gives you a lot of upward momentum on the price. And so a lot of this is really, how do we get more people using it? And the more people using the chain, the better. The more people familiar with the wallets, the better. And that's why I still think that SLP is, it's a really good thing that it exists, as it allows us some mitigations for the period before any type of mass adoption.
Cool.
It's just a question for you, Josh, because you mentioned that, I'm not sure how you phrased it, you said you weren't a big fan of stablecoins. Could you maybe get a sentence or so?
Yeah, so the reason I don't like stablecoins is they have every negative aspect of fiat plus yet another person that can control it. So most of the stable coins can be blacklisted. They can be frozen. So they can literally just stop working. They cannot be redeemed. They could not have their correct backing. So when I go to my bank, right, I have a relationship with my bank and I choose my banking vendor and I choose to trust that they're going to hold whatever fiat I have. And so I have a trust relationship of one. with every stable coin, it is always going to be a trust relationship that is greater than 1, which means to me, I don't know how stable coins could ever be the equivalent value of a dollar, because you're taking additional risk that you would never get from a dollar or from a euro. And if there's additional risk, it makes no sense that the thing is worth the same value. So to me, stable coins are they say they're worth $1, but you're taking additional risk, and therefore they shouldn't be worth $1, because why would it be still worth the same thing if I'm taking that additional risk? And some of the bigger entities like Tether have already admitted publicly that they don't even have the backing that they claim to have in the beginning. So you're looking at, maybe 70% asset backing. That puts you in line for the potential for things like bank runs or those types of things, or stablecoin runs, where a bunch of people are like trying to get out of the market and there isn't enough to pay everybody back. Again, that's another reason it should never be 1-to-1 equivalent to a real dollar. So I don't understand how people with a straight face can be like, oh, stable coins are this great idea, they're 1-to-1 equivalent. They're never going to be 1-to-1 equivalent. Even if financially they claim to be and you can cash them out for $1, you're taking extra risk. And that doesn't appeal to me. I have dollars, I have bank accounts, and to me, the value of the stable coin right now is for volatility periods. The ones that are being audited, like USDC and the Honest coin, I think those are the best that we can get for stable coins. I think that there's some use cases that are useful to end users for those stable coins. But at the end of the day, if we build an economy and no one decides to use the actual cryptocurrencies and is only using stable coins, then I think we completely failed, because we're still in a trust relationship. There's still a central controller. There's a central issuer. There's like every problem that we were trying to solve with fiat, if the whole economy goes stable coins, still exists.
Yeah. I think it's a necessary intermediate step that we can't just work around. And so on that front, like I'm okay. Well, what if USDH, for example, like they're pretty small actually, like they're not big tough guys. I hope I didn't insult them with this. But, so what if like just the government comes and says like, oh yeah, we don't like it, and then what are they going to do? Then a whole industry might go down, like especially if it's used by millions of people. That's again why I think we should at least work on decentralized stablecoins.
I actually really like the decentralized stablecoins. I love the attempt to have an algorithmic stablecoin. Problem is that as we've seen, the algorithmic stablecoins are being backed by traditional stablecoins right now in order to keep their stability. So they're not algorithmic stablecoins by themselves. And without that liquidity from regular stablecoins, then those algorithmic coins wouldn't work.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm not too happy with like MakerDAO is super cool, but I think it's just one step on the on getting something that is properly usable. Because but as I said, it's in my opinion an absolutely necessary step, because we can't convince, especially like the best customers for Bitcoin Cash are in developing countries that have good internet access. And one of the most important features they want to see is just stable value. Like it doesn't collapse like their own currency, and it doesn't like fluctuate like Bitcoin Cash does.
But if we look at the economy today, who's to say that the US dollar is always going to be stable? You're always taking a bet when you're looking at a fiat or government issued currency. And right now we're already seeing the potential for negative interest rates and other stuff because of our current economy. And so just to say, oh, well, everybody goes to US dollars and is following the petrodollar, that somehow means they're always going to be stable, I do not think is the truth.
Well, it's stable in their mind. That's what's required for adoption. Like we can't convince somebody that BCH is stable, but it's pretty easy to convince somebody that the US dollar is stable, because like that's the way they think. And if people are really concerned about stability,
That's the fun thing with the US dollar and the Tether, etc. It's going to be stable until it's not.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the trick.
We had that in Germany like 2 times already.
Yeah.
So coming back here a little bit, we never got to Pokkst and Chris and Cash and Bcash.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was probably me.
No, it's all good. It was a good conversation. No worries. So, what's your end goal for Chris and Cash there, Mr. Purple Man?
Purple Man. Okay. I'm gonna answer like the Bcash hyper like Bitcoinizations, whatever. I'd like to see more gamers and live streamers using Bitcoin Cash, because live streamers face chargeback issues from people making like large donations for like trolling or attention. And my other project, tipbitcoin.cash, solves this by utilizing Bitcoin Cash. And it'd be nice to see more streamers using Crescent as their wallet for that as well. So that's kind of my goal for like my little portion of Bitcoin Cash.
Yeah, tipbitcoin.cash is great because I make about a bunch of money from that. So I love that. It's great. Cool. So I'll kind of open this up for anybody. This will be a last question, then we'll wrap it up. What do you want to tell or ask the Bitcoin Cash community?
I'll go first.
Yeah.
I feel more collaboration would be greatly beneficial to everyone in the community. I'm just going to leave it at that and not stir up drama, but just saying that.
Yeah, I think collaboration is probably the most important thing. Recently, I've gotten attacked for just trying to focus on getting people to work together, which I thought was just crazy. In order for us to succeed, yeah, there's going to be people that are trying to throw a wrench in things, but that doesn't mean that we give up on trying to work with each other. And I have seen a lot of collaboration, to be fair. I've collaborated with a lot of the people in this live stream, and the community is very, very welcoming. And when you are part of it and you get to meet everyone personally, I find that everyone is really striving to figure out the best things to work on. The scope is just so big that we all end up in our little islands trying to build something. But I do see a lot of collaboration. But you don't see that when you look at the dialogue on the social networks or Slack or some of these other places where there's just a lot of toxicity. And unfortunately, that gets fueled by people that don't want peer-to-peer cash to succeed, for better or for worse. You know, they are going to spur those arguments more and more. So to me, it's find the people that are looking to solve the same problems that you're looking to solve, whether that's in the wallet space or the full node space or the payment space or whatever space you want to be, and focus on the people that are trying to build and trying to improve the currency, and pay a little less mind to the people that are out there creating so much division. And if someone doesn't want to work with you, great. Just don't work with them and work with the people that do want to work with you, and just like avoid some of the animosity, because I think that a lot of times the BCH community is its own worst enemy, and that from an onlooker from the outside, they look in and they're like, wait, these people are like a collection of smart folks, but all they do is like argue about petty stuff and like bicker about things that don't matter. And then they say that they want to change the world with peer-to-peer cash, but then they bicker over like little stuff. And it's confusing for them because the amount of research it takes for them to realize our real opinions takes too long. And people's motivation to learn what you're doing is pretty short. So if they're on Twitter, their attention span is that of a gnat. If you can't get it to them in like a tweet, then like you've lost them. So that would be my number one thing, is find the projects you think are interesting, find the people you do want to work with, focus on them, focus on the cool technologies that are being developed, and let's try to grow the space of builders and users in a way that really helps all of us.
Oh yeah, this is a very good point, and I think it helps a lot to essentially keep your eye on the prize. The idea of peer-to-peer cash is to build an economy. A lot of people need to be feel welcome. So we need to end up with millions and millions of people, and that actually become part of our community. So it's not just that you build the community by getting new people that actually, just pay and use one of our wallets, but you also end up onboarding lots of people that are also builders. So your community is going to be a very large mix of different parts. So I completely agree on the be nice to each other with Josh. And I also think it helps a lot by saying, hey, this is my project and this is what I'm doing, instead of, having a political opinion or something like that, which seems to be happening so often nowadays.
What you're building speaks volumes about what you care about.
Definitely. That's what I meant. Thank you, Josh.
So if I can take a jab at that question.
Yeah.
Is it take a jab? Do you say that? I think I heard it.
If you're trying to hurt me.
Oh, no.
Take a shot would maybe be better.
Take a shot would probably be better. Okay. I was like, is that actually English? or am I being too German about that?
No, you're good.
Okay.
No worries.
So no, I lost my train.
Take a
what I wanted
stab
to say
at it.
is,
There you go. Take a stab.
take a stab.
At it. Yeah, there
Okay,
you go.
Gotcha.
Jab, stab.
Okay, so what I think that I think we it doesn't feel like Bitcoin Cash is like we should be more focused on making profitable businesses. I think right now we rely more on donations and voluntary contributions, which I think is super cool. Like I love the fact that the Bitcoin Cash community is so passionate about that. But I think we should be more like, okay, how can we actually turn how can we use Bitcoin Cash to build products that are profitable, that are used by billions of users if possible. I think the second thing is that we should kind of build or figure out some kind of Bitcoin Cash creed, if that makes sense. So for libertarians, we have, I'm not sure how many of you are libertarian, but I'm a libertarian. And libertarians have the NAP. Like if you say, okay, I accept the non-aggression principle, then it's like, okay, yeah, you're a libertarian. Like that's kind of your thing. But like we don't really have the same thing for peer-to-peer cash. I think it's like, okay, what are like the principles of a Bitcoin Cash? What is like what are like the and we can use the white paper to figure that out. But I feel like it's very hard to distill like what is this all about? Like what is the fundamental what are the fundamental rules that we all adhere to? I think we should, and based on that, we can build like a roadmap. Like, okay, what are the things we actually need to build to achieve that? And we've got a roadmap somewhat, and I think it feels like a bit okay. Yeah, we need to have these different areas. It would be cool if we could like figure out, okay, what's actually the base layer that this roadmap or whatever roadmap we agree on is built on. So it maybe I'm too German about that, but like that would like then I could sleep better. That would be good.
So we have some high level roadmap that does exist and has been the case for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I think that
I love that.
Stuck to that roadmap, aka items on that roadmap, people were having very civilized discussions. The last blow up was not on the roadmap. Let's be very clear about that. There was a big item that landed, was not on the roadmap, lots of discussion that was not very nice. But when we stick to the roadmap, the conversations are far more civil. Even when it comes to things like pre-consensus, where people do have differing opinions, they're civil conversations because we knew what we were getting ourselves into. So to me, staying focused on the roadmap, I am completely in agreement with that, and finding, at least a direction we all want to head down so that the conversation stays in the same place is super important.
Yeah,
and maybe it's helpful for your goal. What you say, Flowey has been saying for some time already. Our goal is to move the world towards a Bitcoin Cash economy. Maybe that's something to copy.
Cool. Awesome. We have any last thoughts in here before we wrap it up completely?
Sure. I just wanted to say that, personally, I do appreciate the community being so supportive and passionate, and just overall sharing a lot of ideas. we should just continue to treat each other with respect, and especially when there's a lot of ideas and roadmaps that we're getting divided over, we just need to continue to treat each other with respect. And let's keep working to make Bitcoin more useful for real world applications, retail applications, industrial applications, because really I believe that if we make Bitcoin Cash more useful, it'll be more valuable than gold. So
I'd love to.
Just to support that, I think that it's very heartbreaking that all these discussions between people that when you see the big picture, we have 99% in common. We all do. We mostly want the same. It's just very small things, and we get so angry and so unrespectful. And it's very, very sad. I have worked on the ABC team for a bit, and it's very hard work, man. It's very hard, and you see how, and this also applies for Unlimited and I don't know, BCH and Bitcoin Verde, everyone. It's very hard work that this guy put, and when you see people, treating other people with so unrespectful and with all this hate, it's very heartbroken. We need to stop, and see the big picture, that we want all the same, like 99% of our objective is the same.
Yeah, I'm kind of a paranoid person, so whenever there's like a lot of debate and anger going on in a community, it feels like there's some kind of social attack going on. So maybe one way that we can all, make it not feel like such a social attack is if we all just continue to be respectful to each other, then we can sort of validate that it's, not coming from some outside attacker, I don't know, just an idea.
Couldn't agree more. And I think that things that we find useful are ways to spearhead adoption. So like the gaming space, using tokens within games, being able to have new use cases that bring in younger audiences and a more female audience, I think are really, really important. If you look at the people that are making purchases, usually there's a disparity between the men and women of the household. And right now we have mainly men in crypto, and it needs to be something that all humans use, kids, men, women, everyone, and they need to be able to use it easily. And I think that we need those like killer apps that make it easy to have like features that we actually want. I think games actually bring a lot to the table on that respect, because they all need in-game currencies. They all have wide adoption in the millions if they become successful. And that could be enough to spearhead a lot of new users trying Bitcoin Cash. And I haven't seen much in the space. There is a new game that was just released. I forget what it was called. I forget what it was called, but that is exciting. And I think that can push the envelope forward.
Yeah, one thing with all the censorship going on with Twitter and YouTube, every time I see that, I just think of memo.cash, and that's such a useful application, just an uncensorable social media platform.
Yeah, and I like Member a lot as well, because Member chose to open source all of their code and reads a lot of the memo protocol, plus some additions. So what Free Trade, not Free Trader, but Free Trade did with Member was pretty cool. And if people want to contribute to that, that is the open source alternative to Memo.
I like the decentralized moderation, or how they call it. Oh, I remember. That's the way I think the future of communication should be like. It's like, okay, we just have the stream of data, and you can delegate the filtering to someone else that you think does a good job, and then we kind of have like a free market of censorship, so to speak, but like a free market of moderation.
And what did you call it, Tobias?
It's member.cash.
Oh, okay. I haven't used that yet. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, I think they should market themselves more. I never hear about them. Like,
Yeah,
I think
so
Cash did an excellent job at like getting into the community. I think they're now a big part, and yeah. But
Yeah.
Cash is a profitable company, so I'm just saying.
But member.cash has different backend and front-end instances you can run. So you can actually pick your backend from the front end. BCHD team actually runs one at member.bchd.cash that runs all on BCHD public infrastructure, but reads a similar data set. So they have open source indexers and front end and all of that stuff for you. And you can bring up your own clones really, really easily and contribute to development. I really hope that Memo reconsiders open sourcing some of their code, because I think that it could really have another, big booming success if they were to do that. But they have not decided to go that route.
And memo.cash is ugly. I think they could improve.
And that's the main thing is I want to see all their back end, but I think the front end kind of needs to be redone.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. I know, Romit, you haven't had a word in a while. If you want to say anything, feel free.
Well, yeah, I mean, everyone pretty much covered up most of the things, but I think the same thing applies for new projects, new businesses as well. Try supporting. I think everyone in the community should support new projects that are building on top of Bitcoin Cash. Help with libraries or packages or whatever it is. We personally have, because of the help that we have got, we were able to push through. Just don't be hostile to new businesses, no matter what style they're working on, whether it's custodial, non-custodial, whether it's centralized, decentralized. It doesn't matter, as long as they're pushing for adoption. I think it should be appreciated, it should be helped, and maybe maybe more tips on how they can improve towards the right side, more non-custodial side. That would do great things, I guess.
Cool. Yeah. Great advice. Okay, I think we'll wrap it up here. Thank you, everybody, for the excellent discussion. Tons of topics covered, and I really appreciate it. So thank you, everybody, again, and see you around.
Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you, Colin.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
having
guys.
me.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.